Hi, this is Ed from the Whiskey Tangent Podcast, and it's time for another Whiskey Short. You know, as anybody who's a fan of the Wedding Crasher movies like I am, we know what season it is. Now, if you go to a lot of weddings and you're a whiskey drinker, the first thing you realize is the whiskey selection at weddings sucks ass. Sucks ass.
Terrible.
It is getting better just because people are demanding you provide something.
Yeah, I've been to weddings where there hasn't even been whiskey.
Right. It's
very
Seagram
upsetting.
7 and Old Granddad and tears.
Tears.
Now, I'll be dead honest with you. When I was a youngster, it didn't bother me at all. I was in my glory because they always had one or both of the whiskeys that I preferred. Jim Beam and Jack Daniels, preferably mixed with ginger ale and Coke, respectively. Now, today we thought it'd be interesting. What if you had to drink them on ice? So, Scott, what are we doing today?
So we're going to do a blind taste testing of just Jack Daniels on the rocks versus Jim Beam on the rocks. And we're going to see which whiskey wins in the midi bottle battle.
White label versus black label.
Oh, I didn't even realize that. Whiskey Short.
All right, so I have one, you have one. Let's
I have
try.
one, yeah.
We don't know what we have. We've done a blind taste, and we have a way of figuring it out when we're done. Okay, here we go.
Okay, here we go.
Wow.
Peanuts? Peanuts? Caramel?
Uh,
What are you tasting in that one?
I really don't know what to taste from that. It's a little corn, maybe. This is much better.
Oh, that's terrible.
This is much better. This has to be. I have to have the Jack Daniels.
Yeah.
I'm begging
So,
God that it's,
so we switched. So the first one I had that I actually kind of liked was Jack Daniels, and now I have the Jim Beam,
Yes.
and this is terrible.
what Frank Sinatra would tell you. If you have to drink Jack Daniels on the rocks, you certainly can.
Give me some.
It's
Jack
better
Daniels.
than you think it is. It's actually better than I remember it as. I've drank single barrel Jack, which I've raved about on this podcast many times.
I mean, it's better than Jim. So
Much better.
Don't overstate it.
No, I'm just
But,
saying.
Yeah,
But
no.
I mean, compared to where I'm sitting right now with what I just had in my mouth,
All right.
Jim Beam,
Sure.
which was really very, very juvenile. I couldn't
Yeah.
wait to mix it with something.
Yeah, it's very immature.
I always heard that Frank Sinatra and the Rat Pack drank Jack Daniels on the rocks, and I always wondered. But then you think about it, they didn't really have a lot of small batch bourbons back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and so Jack was pretty much it. And I can see why. There is a flavor to it. There
Yeah,
certainly is.
Definitely. All you taste with the Jim Beam is alcohol and sweet.
I taste bananas in the Jack Daniels right now.
Oh, absolutely. That is.
I don't know why I've never tasted that before.
If you look up online taste characteristics of Jack Daniels, you'll get a lot of people tasting bananas in it. It's
The
well
first
known.
thing I slid away from Jack Daniels, I went to Gentleman Jack because it had a little bit crisper flavor and it was a little bit more aged. But you know what? If you have to drink Jack Daniels on the rocks at a wedding, you're not going to die.
Yeah, I agree. And we have confirmed that we are correct. The Jack Daniels is the flavorful one, and Jim Beam tastes like
But I
ass.
figured it out already, and so did Scott, because the Jim Beam is.
Jack Daniels is a little bit darker than Jim Beam.
Yeah, Jim Beam is presenting visually as an Irish whiskey almost.
All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to try the mixed drink version. The traditional one that goes with Jack is Coke, so
Right.
Jack and Cokes. And with Jim Beam, Jim and ginger ale.
Yeah, so we're adding another mini bottle of each to the glasses. And
So we're actually using actual Coke and Seagram's ginger ale.
So we've established that you can drink Jack Daniels on the rocks. At weddings, it's still popular to have mixed drinks. And some weddings are even weird. Like, they won't give you straight liquor. Like, they won't do shots. They won't do it on a...
Right, they'll have to put it on ice or give you a mixer.
Right, so...
Yeah.
So
the Jack Daniels is definitely darker than the Jim Beam now.
well, right now, definitely with the coconut. All right, we're going to try the Jack Coke. I haven't had Jack and Coke in a while, so it's going to be kind of fun. It's like very nostalgic for us. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is going to be really good. Oh, we're going to taste,
let's taste it.
Jack and Coke first and then
Sure.
Jim? Okay.
Jack and Coke.
All right, here we go.
It's refreshing. It really goes together nice.
It does go together tonight.
I used to summer in Manasquan. That's a lie. I really didn't, but my friends did. And so I would go to visit them. And Manasquan's a shore town. And they had a bar called Leggett's. And we had a bartender in there. And he would give us Jack and Cokes that was translucent. There was so much Jack and so little Coke in it. And it was like, we used to call it, name was Lucas. We used to call it getting a Lucas. And you could literally see through the glass. It was... Now, you look at the Jack and Coke we have here, it's completely full with Coke and
yeah,
color.
it's much more Coke than Jack Daniels.
All right, so we're going to try the Jim Beam now.
Yeah, I tried the Jim Beam. Jim and Ginger. It's terrible. I don't like it at all.
Well, the Jim and Ginger, it
I like
can
the
be...
Jack and Coke's not bad.
It can be really creamy. A personal record for me, when I was 25, I had 14 Jim Beam and ginger ales at a wedding.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I'm proud of that. And It was at my stepsister's wedding, and bridesmaids were going up and getting me like my 12th, 13th, and 14th drink. I thought I was being smooth, and the girl goes, "The bartender says he hopes you don't throw up." And I didn't. So he was right.
Oh,
but
good
the weird
for you.
thing is, it was a daytime wedding, so like I walked out into the parking lot like 6 o'clock, and it was still sunny and bright. Oh my God! Have we all done that? Have we all gone down the shore and day drank, and then walked out into the sun at like 5 o'clock, and you're like,
and you're
you
too
just feel like
tired.
it's not even like it. You just feel like you're just wrong. You just feel like your life is wrong at that point. You felt so good inside.
Want
an
to go
hour
to
ago.
bed?
Yeah,
And
at 4 o'clock inside the dark bar, you were loving yourself in life, and then you come out and the sun greets you.
yeah, there's
Look at me.
there's a story like doing the power hour, which is drinking a shot of beer a minute for an hour. And we would do that in the afternoons down the
Yeah,
shore.
it's 5 beers in an hour. Have fun with that.
And and I would do it. And then later we did the power half hour, which was a shot every 30 seconds for a half an hour.
Oh,
and
Christ.
I got halfway through that, and I just regurgitated all the beer
Thank
up
God.
onto the floor. And
That's a good thing.
somebody joked that they could literally have put a glass under my mouth and drank it because it wasn't in my stomach.
It was straight beer coming out.
It was in my esophagus. It was all the way up to the top, and I just pushed it out.
I love the fact that we always do whatever we can to just send our listeners running. Like for a podcast that you would want to encourage listening, we repel listeners at a rapid
There were
pace.
a lot of bodily functions. We did something on
So,
the colonoscopy and
Two
then
other
bathroom
listen, that was a
stuff
PSA
and-
thing. Listen, we're
Was
men,
it?
men here talking about men stuff, and sometimes you throw up. So the point is, at some weddings you could find Crown Royal, and Crown Royal is also
right.
the pinnacle of Canadian whiskey, probably, besides getting into some of their small batch stuff. But
I
as
would
far as
say
commercially, is what I meant.
Yeah. I
Right?
would say also Jameson.
Yes, you can find Jameson, and
You drank a ton of Jameson at Rich's wedding, if I recall.
I had about 15 at Rich's wedding. It's my number, I guess, but that was a completely different situation. I was in a little bit of an attitude, a little mood, and I
That was hysterical.
fresh off a divorce, and I drank 15,
Yeah.
and it was spectacular, by the way, and I had a good time. My brother Joe says I told the same story 3 times on the ride home, which is okay because I wasn't driving. I was just telling the same story repeatedly. He said him and his wife were laughing hysterically at me. But
I remember a conversation that I was the only one who witnessed it between you and the bride, who was also hammered. It was hilarious.
remember the conversation of both of us loving each other and just being completely drunk while we were.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
like, I love you so much. Thank you so much for having me at your wedding. Oh, it wouldn't be a wedding without you. And then I remember
It was
her
so
husband,
great.
Her husband, like right before I fell into a glass table downstairs at the bathrooms, I remember him jerking me off the table, and I'm like, oh.
Wait, he did what?
Like I was.
He jerked you off the table? I did not see
You
that.
are so dark in the way you.
I did not.
No,
See
honestly, I was ready to. I literally lost my balance and was like, "Oh, there's a glass table here," and all of a sudden I felt myself like yanked to safety. And he's like, "All right, there you go, Ed, up the steps now." But great time,
He's a strong,
good times, good times,
strong man.
good times, yeah,
Good times, yeah. So what else do we have to say about Jack and Jim? I think Jack wins.
Jack wins, without a
this
doubt.
mini bottle
Jack
battle.
and Coke wins. Jack on the rocks wins. Like I said, look for Crown Royal. Jameson on the rocks.
I
on
would
the
say
rocks.
of all of these, the Crown Royal, the Jameson, and even Maker's Mark that you might see at a wedding,
Yeah, it's coming.
I would say the Jameson is the one to get. But if you only have Jack and Jim, black versus white,
I
always
agree.
bet on black.
Always.
Just like Wesley Snipes said.
I agree. And there's another option here, and I want to throw it out there real quick before we sign off. Get a flask. I mean, I have brought Knob Creek into weddings. I have brought
that's a-
Woodford Reserve. It's not, listen,
That's a great idea.
I can do what I want. Like, if you're
Yep.
not offering me a good drink, I don't mind. I'm not mad at you, but don't be mad at me if I'm going to go out and bring my own stuff in. So,
I agree.
so these are options you have. If you want to bring Blanton's to a wedding, then just go get a flask. If it's Jack and Jim, you got to go Jack. Jack's traditional.
Mhm.
It's spectacular. And let's be honest, nothing tastes like Jack. You could have put 50 whiskeys out here. I would have picked Jack Daniels out.
Well, maybe we should mention just real quick the reason why Jack Daniels is not called a bourbon, even though it technically would qualify as a bourbon. But the Jack Daniels distillery wants to distinguish it from bourbons and calling it a Tennessee whiskey. And the thing that differentiates it is that they use what's called the Lincoln County process. And that is just filtering the end product through, I think it's maple wood charcoal. And so it takes away some of the congeners, the bitter flavors that would otherwise be in there, and it makes it a kind of a smoother thing. I'm going to finish all of this, and you can have your Jim and Ginger.
I'm going to drink
Terrible.
I'm going to take one for the team and drink the Jim Beam and Ginger Ale because it got me through so many weddings that I owe it a little love.
You do
back.
really like it. You do.
I do.
Yeah.
I like it. I like the ginger ale, and it's very creamy to me. And yet, I've had, just for the record, I've had Jim and Coke, and it sucks. And I've had Jack Daniels and ginger ale, and it's not good either.
It's not right. I mean, I
Jack
think,
and Coke is a magical. I don't know why it works, but it works like nothing else I've ever had. A Jack and Coke is, you know, down Atlantic City. I had cans already made up of Jack Daniels and Coca-Cola.
What do you mean cans?
It comes already made up in a
Oh,
Coke.
get out.
It comes with Jack Daniels and Coke in a can.
Wow.
It's spectacular.
And they sell them in liquor stores?
I don't know. I've only got them in the casinos. They sell them in like the hotel, like
interesting.
convenience store, like what do you call
Yeah,
it?
one of those little shops.
The shampoo and the toothpaste, and then they have Jack Daniels in cans.
Wow.
So thanks so much. This is a little bit longer than we normally do for a short, but weddings are a little bit longer than you really want to be at. So we figured it was okay. Jack and Coke is the way I say to go at a wedding.
Yeah,
And
agreed.
my rule at all weddings is very simple. Drink a lot of water as always, but drink one thing and drink it all night. I have to tell you another story. At my brother Joe's wedding, our good friend of ours, Mike Finan, he was doing mind erasers and kamikazes and Red Death and everything else.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Hey, come on, we're doing mind erasers." And I go, "Mike, I drink one thing and I drink it all night." And that night I was drinking Jack and Cokes. Well, an hour later, he was throwing up. And he came out, he looked at me and he nodded. I nodded back at him. That's right. Drink one thing and drink it all night. Whatever you feel like drinking. Do not get caught up in the commercial shot game. Fuck all those like industry shots of whatever.
Yeah. Fireball included.
Fuck that.
Also, just for the record, Mike Finan is like 1/3 the size of you. He's a tiny man.
It's not the point. He was. The
It's
point
not
was
the point.
the point was he
I
was
think that's part of
attacking
the
me for not doing a mind eraser, and I'm like, "Fuck you! I'm not doing a mind eraser because I know what's going to happen.
It's fair.
I know what's going to happen. I've been to many weddings, and I did that when I was 12. The reality is, I drink
12?
one thing. I drink one thing. I drink it all night. That's what I do.
All right.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. That's it. Thank
Jack
you.
and Coke.